Playing a typical 2-5 progression is fine, but what when you want that little bit more spice? There are several things you can do, and in this video we're going to figure out what some of those are. If we haven't met before, my name's Sean. I studied with Barry Harris for close to 20 years, but I specialize in helping people to get fluent in the first place and actually have skills, not just a ton of information flying at them that they're trying to decipher on YouTube. So if you're interested in that, then come and see us on Jazz Skills. Now let's take the tune I Should Care, which begins with a 2-5 progression, and another one. And let's see how many different ways we could do that. Well, let's just do a few of them today anyway. So our first one, clearly D minor 7, G7 to C, major 7, right? So I'll just say C. One thing that you'll hear a lot is a tritone substitution. Some of these concepts may be too advanced for newer players, fine, but at least you'll get a taste for what we do. This is more of a stylistic lesson for people who are getting some fluency in their playing, okay? We wouldn't normally fire this at you right at the beginning. Well, a tritone would be approaching the G7 from a half step above. So that would be A flat 7 to G7 and then to C. Okay. Now, immediately, some people will message me and say, why does D minor 7 get substituted with A flat? It's nothing to do with it. The substitution is that D minor 7 can go to G7, but so can A flat. And it's more about where we're going than where we currently are. So where we're going is G7 and ultimately to C. Where we are is D minor or A flat 7. They don't have to relate to each other. The things that do are the places we're going to. So now we have two ways. We have our simple 2-5-1, D minor G7, or we have A flat 7 to G7. Bit of movement as well. Okay, let's see what else. Well, another thing we could do is use a tritone 2-5. So a tritone 2-5 works like this. We keep the D minor 7. And by the way, with that A flat 7, some people will say, well, that substitutes D7 because it's a tritone, 3 tones from D7. That's true. But another way to see it is that it's just a half step above the G. But anyway, we get into that another time. Probably have done already somewhere here. But this time what we're going to do is we're going to tritone the G7 to get to C. And if we just think a half step and a dominant, a half step above C, we'll get D flat 7, which is also 1, 2, 3 tones away from G7. Okay. So we could keep the D minor 7 and then go to D flat 7. Let's see what that sounds like. Fine. Okay, another thing that's really cool is a tritone 2-5. So a tritone 2-5 is when you take D flat 7 and every dominant is 5 somewhere. So you say, well, if that's 5, what's 2? How quick are you? Are you going to get the answer before I say it? If not, you got to learn your keys. Join us on Jazz Skills. A flat minor 7 will go to D flat 7 and then to C. Now we could even start with the D minor or maybe not. Let's see. One time we'll do it with like this. This time without the D minor 7. I just realized I can't do it without the D minor 7 in this case because of the first note being C. But in the solos I could. So if I went straight to A flat minor, fine, but not when I've got the C in the melody because it goes against the A flat minor 7. Let's see any others. We could say D7 instead of D minor 7. Quite like to flat the 5, and then let's take that tritone D flat 7 that we already used with a flat 5 and still go to C. The C's off the page, so I'll just put a new one in. Let's see. You could even end on a C major 7 with a flat 5. So D7 flat 5, D flat 7 flat 5, and then maybe bring that up in a movement. So that's another way to do it. We could take this I hear quite often on this tune. Instead of C, what's a clear substitution for C? E minor. Why? Because C major 7 and E minor 7 share so many notes that actually you can play E minor 7 on top of a C major shell and you've got yourself a chord, right? So if we're approaching E minor, its 2-5, as you'll see in another YouTube lesson of mine, if you don't know, is F sharp minor 7 flat 5. This is the 2-5 that leads to E minor, to B7, to E minor. And in this case, that happens to work melodically as well. Check this out. Great. A flat 7 to G7. Okay, we've got quite a few options there. Let's tritone the B7. Can you think of what the tritone would be that leads to E minor that we put instead of B7, those people who know? So this is up to the next level, would be F7, because B7 and F7 are 3 tones away, 1, 2, 3, and they share thirds and sevenths, by the way. This is the 3rd and 7th of F7, and this is the 3rd and 7th of B7. They're the same, right? So we talk about that at other times, but for people who already know. So we could keep the F sharp minor 7 flat 5 to F7 this time. We'll have to voice it, so going to have the B at the top, right? And that's already a ton of ways to play that simple 2-5. Now imagine if you don't play it the same every single time that line comes up in the tune. It gives you all kinds of things to do. And something I'd like to stress is this for me, I teach on 3 levels. Level 1 is just learning the chords and getting started. Level 2 is a few tunes, no real freedom, where a lot of people seem to be stuck. And then level 3, more advanced students that can play, let's say, 10, 12 standards fluently. This is like a 2B to 3 sort of thing for many of those substitutions. So if you don't get them all, that's okay, but at least it'll give you a taste for some things that are to come. If you'd like to get yourself fluent in the first place and you're tired of struggling with YouTube videos and bits of information, and you want to actually have some transformation and get fluent and learn more about chords and tunes and common progressions, voicings, Barry Harris style chord movements, improv, accompanying, and all kinds of other things, then join us on Jazz Skills, where you'll get support from me and a vibrant community as well. Thanks for watching, and I hope you try and use some of this in your playing. Bye for now.